We've been hearing about CNG for quite a while now. Since the Bastille Pandey administration, the word or the term CNG has been put out in the public domain. To date, not every single gas station throughout the country has the capabilities to deliver the service. This morning, joining us on set, we have the chairman of the NGC. The president will join us in a short bit, Mr. Jerry Brooks. Mr. Brooks, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Hema. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
What has life been like at NGC before we get into the meat of the discussion this morning?
Life has been very interesting. As I was saying to you offset, it's an opportunity for public service. And I encourage many of my colleagues in the private sector who have been leaders or senior executives in the private sector to join this public sector and to make a contribution to Trinidad and Tobago. The problems that we face in the energy sector are quite complex. Just as an example, in Canada, you've lost 40,000 of 200,000 jobs, and there has been a significant shock to the economy. In Saudi Arabia, in Oman, in Colombia, in Suriname, many of the commodity-driven territories, the problems are quite complex. They are pervasive. You have renewables, you have shale oil, and therefore the entire energy substruct has changed, and we need the best minds in the country to address those problems at a game-changing, transformative moment.
Now, in terms of the job losses you talk about, it is no secret that the energy sector is not where it used to be, and major players must adjust their bottom line. NGC also did their own review. Would we expect further layoffs? Do you expect that what are some of the things that you are doing to control your operating costs in a time when revenue is under attack?
We are doing several things at the NGC. The first thing, Hema, that we are doing is that we have recast our 2016 to 2020 budget, which is how do we view the world in the context of shale oil, renewables, and a very different pricing regime, both in terms of pricing and production. And that's been done in the context of a renewed gas master plan. The second thing that we're doing is that we're doing capacity building across key platforms of the organization. The third thing which we're doing is that for the very first time in NGC's 40-year history, we are approaching matters as an NGC group. So no longer will you see the Phoenix Park separately and National Energy separately and NGC separately and CNG. It is a holistic group approach with a group-wide strategy supported by our top 25 executives who have contributed to the plan. Two other important things. Fourthly, what we're doing is that we're internationalizing the company. What that does is that it reduces the volatility in the company and broadens the earning stream. In the last quarter, we've had 2 visits to Africa, and to Ghana in particular, where we're taking a look at gas processing opportunities, pipeline opportunities, some upstream opportunities, and we have signed very specific MOUs with international majors who have plant and equipment and who have investments in those jurisdictions. The other area that we're looking at is that we're looking to open up the earning stream. And what we're doing there is that we're taking a look at the establishment of a commercial desk, which allows us to market our commodities and products. So that in the value chain, instead of handing those off to third party, we are saying that we must become a marketer and driver of commercial value of our products. So those are some of the things that we're doing from an NGC standpoint.
Now, under recession, you must look for opportunities which didn't exist previously, but you must also cut cost. How are you cutting cost? We
are cutting costs in several different areas. And in fact, the question of cutting costs is not only an NGC issue, it is a jurisdiction issue, i.e. Trinidad and Tobago, and the entire energy sector must cut costs. My guess is that we probably have to cut costs in the range of 20 to 25% because plants can move. Methanex taught us that when they moved the plant in Chile. Yeah. ArcelorMittal tells us that we're prepared to move around in our portfolio of assets. We are prepared to move to lower cost jurisdictions. Canada is also driving that as an issue. They are saying we have to take 25-30% cost out of our business. Trinidad and Tobago has to do that. So it's not only the NGC. IPSL is doing it, BP is doing it, BHP is doing it, Shell is doing it.
And how are you doing it?
We're doing it in several areas. One, procurement. How do we buy in terms of the supply chain? There's between 20 and 25% inside of there. 2, the move to group-wide synergies, and I'll give you an example. When we took a look at our insurances from a group-wide perspective, we noticed 2 things. One is that we had 2 different carriers, and 2, there was the opportunity for us to rationalize our programs. That allowed us to save 21.5% in cost. 21.5, over $10 million in cost. So it's procurement, it's how we buy, it's HSSE, It is better marketing of our products to improve the revenue and to improve margins. And it is an across the board look at our expense stream and saying, how do we take costs out of our business? And operationally as well. Excellence in operations or operational efficiency.
Before we take the break, you know, a lot of the stakeholders would look at their major concern during a recessionary period. Wage freezes, wage cuts, and job cuts. Are those options being explored with NGC at this time?
We are exploring every option. We are first trying here to ensure that we position ourselves in a manner which is competitive, which can lead to sustainable growth, and which identifies growth opportunities. Having said that, we have to take a look at the whole expense spectrum and see how do we manage and contain this expenditure spectrum so that we protect margins in the context of negotiations of our upstream contracts and negotiations of our downstream contracts to allow our downstreamers to be more competitive and to have a sustainable platform for growth.
Have you started layoffs as yet?
We have not started any layoffs.
Do you think that you will?
We as an organization will have to ensure that in the organizational good that we position the organization for the future.
What is the percentage of your wage bill to your overall cost?
I don't have that percentage offhand, but it's about 7 or 8%.